Slater Crusaders, thank you for being here for our coronavirus special, Preparing for Pandemic. Coming up here, we're going to talk to a doctor who specializes in disaster preparedness. We're going to talk to an expert on China about why these diseases keep coming out of China and if we should trust anything that's come out of the communist government since the beginning of all this. And also with a former fighter pilot who is an expert on how to protect your family now. Couple things have happened in these last few weeks. Every day, things are changing here. I think we can stop. Actually, sorry, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how we got here.
New Year's Eve in Wuhan, a city of 11 million people in central China. Local officials confirm hospitals are treating dozens of cases of an unknown illness. A few days later, researchers identify a mysterious new virus, the coronavirus. On the 11th of January, China's state media reports the first known death from the disease caused by the virus. The victim, a 61-year-old man who was a regular customer at an open-air food market in Wuhan. The virus begins to spread. The first confirmed cases outside mainland China appear in Japan, South Korea, and Thailand. One day later, in Washington state, the first confirmed case of coronavirus in the U.S. January 23rd. Chinese officials close off Wuhan, a major central Chinese city and the source of the coronavirus. By now, the virus has killed at least 17 people, and more than 570 have been infected. U.S. airlines suspend service to mainland China, while the White House blocks entry into the U.S. of any foreign nationals who had recently traveled to China. The death toll from the coronavirus is now 213. On February 5th, the Diamond Princess cruise ship is quarantined in Yokohama, Japan, as some passengers test positive for the coronavirus. A week later, the number of people on board the ship who test positive for the virus becomes the largest number of cases outside of China. The death toll from coronavirus in China hits 1,000, topping the 908 people killed by the SARS epidemic in 2002 and 2003. The number of confirmed cases of coronavirus in China rise to more than 40,000. On February 19th, Iran announces 2 coronavirus cases in the country. Both patients die. The news comes just days after France said a Chinese tourist had died at a hospital in Paris. March 9th, the U.S. stock market posts its worst day in over a decade as concerns about the spread of the virus grow. The number of global cases of coronavirus now stands at over 115,000.
Yeah, since we've made that piece, we're now at over 130,000 cases and 5,000 deaths. I think we could stop now calling it or saying it's just the flu. You've heard that before, right? The NBA just suspended their season. March Madness will have no fans in the audience at all in the stands. There's a website, isitcanceledyet.com, and you can get the latest on big events that have been canceled all around the world. These are the initial dominoes, right? We've been saying the last few days that no mayor wants to be the first mayor to shut down their city. But once one of them does, the others will follow. It's the same with sports and big events like this. The NBA can just suspend the entire season. The NBA. Other groups are going to follow now. And of course, we had the president's address from the Oval Office. Here's what he said.
I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight.
So we have a little more detail on the plan there. It's specifically the Shenzhen area. So it's basically the European Union. It's not all of Europe. It's the European Union, which is why England is not included in that ban. And it's not everybody. That ban does not apply to legal permanent residents, green card holders, or immediate family members of U.S. citizens. So there's some exemptions in there as well. But still, that's a pretty big deal to just shut off travel from, China at first, and now severely limit travel from most of the affected areas in Europe. Big deal. couple points here before we get to our guests. Just me personally on this, and maybe you have the same sort of trajectory as I've had on this. My concern for coronavirus in the beginning, maybe 2 months ago, was zero, maybe even negative. I not only wasn't concerned, I brushed off like, this is a media exaggeration. It's a hoax. It's just the flu, like all that stuff. Now my concern, well, it depends. Like I'm a healthy younger guy, so my concern for the virus is pretty small. But for my mom, it's much higher. I'm concerned for her. I'm also much more concerned about being prepared for not only the virus and the reaction to it and the overwhelming of the healthcare system, but government-forced quarantines and government-forced shutdowns. We hear about the containment area in Westchester outside New York City. So there's going to be more of those as well. Is your family prepared for that? For the second order effects, the fallout from this pandemic? We're going to talk again more about that with one of our guests coming up. No need to panic, just to be prepared. And it's spreading, and there's a 5-day incubation period. So someone can have the virus and not know it for about 5 days before they start to see symptoms, and they're still contagious during those 5 days. So it's a lot of people have it now and don't even know it yet, especially because there's such limited testing in America. We know of 3 TSA agents at the San Jose airport who tested positive for coronavirus. And that's apparently we've only had about 7,000 tests done in America. So with very limited testing, we know of 3 TSA agents in one airport, right? Could there be a worse profession to have that's, right? A TSA agent patting down people, touching all the bags, and then people go all around the country and the world with it? So there's way more than 120,000 cases. We just haven't tested. Italy is about 9 days ahead of us. And the strain that they have already there's this huge strain on our healthcare system. Some hospitals over there, 200% capacity. Tom Hanks has coronavirus. So that's important because this is the beginning of these high-profile cases. There's going to be more and more celebrities, more and more athletes who get this. And I think that's important because people are going to start to take it a little more seriously. Oh, if it could get Tom Hanks. So what do we do now? What do we need to know? For a while, when there were very few cases in America, I think there was a thought that we could contain it. We could keep it from coming here, right? We shut down flights from China. If it's only in China, then we can stop flights from China and we can prevent it from coming here. But we're past that point now. Once it spread to South Korea and Italy and Iran and Japan, and it was impossible to stop from coming to America. And now it's absolutely here. And I'm not so concerned, although some people from the CDC, Dr. Fauci in particular, are saying that the death rate, it's 1%, which is 10 times a higher fatality rate than the regular flu, and that equals about 500,000 people in America. Mostly old people, but not always. And also, I want to reject this like flippant, well, it's only old people. Like, they're people too. It's a virus, but it's also what life looks like under mass quarantine. What does life look like when we can't congregate in large crowds anymore? What does life look like when you can't take public transportation? What does life look like when you can't go to a hospital for an elective surgery, or if you have a stroke and the hospital's overrun with people with coronavirus? What does that world look like? And then if things get even worse than that, how do we get food properly, right? Let's say a bunch of truckers get this and food can't be transported to grocery stores. I know in Italy, they're allowing only a certain number of people in a grocery store at a time, and there's a big line outside. Everyone's a couple meters apart from each other, waiting. One person leaves, another person can go in. We have to think about these things because it's certainly coming. We see it in Italy already. We're going to talk about China specifically coming up with one of our guests. And you can't trust what's coming out of China. We can do the best we can with the numbers they're giving us, but you can't trust this. This is a peer-reviewed medical journal that was published, Lancet. Check out these 2 lines here. This is a medical journal, right? 2 lines that are highlighted. The conditions and environment here in Wuhan are more difficult and extreme than we could ever imagine. And they go into great detail, and then they jump to the end of the medical peace. We're asking nurses and medical staff from countries around the world to come to China now to help us with this battle. Well, first of all, every country's now got their own battle to fight. But also the idea here is that the belief is that these Chinese medical workers used this medical journal to get past the Chinese censors. This is not a medical article. This is a cry for help from early on in Wuhan. And that paper was retracted by the authors the very next day. So the censors, they got by them for a day. One thing that's interesting about how this virus spreads, it's not like the avian flu, right? When you get the avian flu, it was bad. It was bad, you get it fast, and you're quarantined immediately. And people could take action to stop its spread. But coronavirus, it just looks and feels like a normal sickness, right? There were 14 people on that cruise ship in that package that they talked about. 14 Americans tested positive on the cruise ship in Japan, and they felt fine. And that's a problem because that's what's going to make it spread even further. Like Tom Hanks, before he came down with symptoms, he was sick for 5 days. If you asked him for those 5 days, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't have it." But he did. There's been a lot of pandemics in history. The word pandemic, now it's officially a pandemic. It means all people. Pan means all, demos means people. So it literally means all people. It's a disease that spreads across a large region around the world. And governments can do only so much to stop it, but also, once they do things, you have no legal recourse. If the government wants to create a quarantine zone and say you can't leave your house, there's nothing you can do about that. You have no legal recourse whatsoever. So let's be ready. Not panicked. Not panicked. Just prepared. So what do we do? Well, we have a China expert coming up. We have a survival expert, and we have a public health expert to give us their insight. That's all coming up. First, maybe one of my all-time favorite facts. I remember when I first heard this, and I was like, how can that possibly be true? But it is. All the gold that's ever been mined in the history of the world, think from Pharaoh all the way to Fort Knox, jewelry, everything, all the gold ever, could easily fit inside 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Isn't that amazing? Out of all the gold in the world, that's why they're called precious metals. Precious, they're incredibly rare and of incredible value. There's not that much gold out there. And I want you to have some. This entire show today is about protecting your family. And while most everyone out there is talking about how coronavirus can impact your health, you know that it can be devastating to the economy and to your financial health. I mean, you've seen the stock market, right? You've seen it drop, and things can obviously get much worse. We're talking about supply chains coming up as well. Things can get much, much worse in the economy. This obviously is going to affect the value and the health of your IRA and your 401k. So if you've ever thought about gold before, maybe coronavirus is that thing that, triggers a recession, but also, gives you that kick in the pants to do what maybe you should have done a while ago. But it's not too late, because physical gold and silver is recession-proof. It's a recession-proof safe haven for your retirement. And it's just a smart thing to have in your possession. So now who? American Hartford Gold Group. Give them a call. A real person will pick up the phone. You can ask them any question you have. I call them, I ask them so many stupid questions. They're super patient. And they'll give you the pros and cons of different options that you have, what's best for you. Family owned, A+, Better Business Bureau, top rated on Trustpilot, all that stuff, obviously. There's something about just having a precious metal in your hand. That's how you feel fully in control of your own retirement. And when things hit the fan, you're fully in control of the moment when you have physical gold. Give them a call now, and Hartford is giving you a free silver coin. Just call, text now, mention Mike Slater, mention the first, they'll give you a free silver coin to get you started. It's American Hartford Gold Group. You can see the phone number right here. It's 866-511-2758, or go to their website, AmericanHartfordGold.com/free coin. Make sure you type in free coin. Why not, right? AmericanHartfordGold.com/free coin. We'll be right back.